Okay, so this is the video for the dark side as portrayed in the media. This is our second topic, dark side chapter 13, and you're supposed to pick an article. Yep, pick article. I should know this before I make a video, right? And connect at least 3 specific concepts of the chapter to your article. So article I picked was called "The Dark Side of the Media." I'll put the link for it down below, but it was actually a blog that I came across from a couple of weeks ago, and it pretty much hits everything on the head about what social media has become as a societal norm, or at least what a lot of people think of social media and its implications nowadays. In fact, I don't even have Facebook anymore. I kind of got away from that, and this article touched bases with it, and it's basically the damage and a lot of the things that are happening within social media platforms, right? And it talks about how it started off as a good thing, but then it's kind of transcended into something that's a lot more negative than supposed to be positive, because of the sensationalization of the media, uh, the amount of misinformation that's being put out there, and the polarization of that misinformation, and how it's basically it's not a topic of discussion or debate anymore. It's literally like you were wrong unless you absolutely 100% agree with my own train of thought. And we see it now. One of the reasons why I got out of it is between friends and family. It's gotten to a point that it's kind of disappointing in a sense, where there's such a divide, and now you've even seen that translate into a workplace, and that's where the chapter kind of talks about the dark side organization communication. Is people are having such discourse and conflict with a social media platform with one another that now is becoming even more prevalent in the workforce and workplace. Talking about verbal aggressions, people not agreeing 100% with with your own belief. They don't want to hear or even talk about these things, so they're just going to try to dismiss it, or they're just going to push you off to the side as if you don't matter. One of the biggest things, more recently, right, because the 2020 elections and a lot of the civil discourse situations that were happening across the nation, around the world, and people literally having fights at work. It was insane. Like, you could have not just have a solid conversation with people, and people just got to a point where they were just calling each other names. And I had to put a stop to it a couple of times because it just got out of hand. And the book talks about that, about workplace bullying and defining work, setting work um, work cyberbullying, sorry, and workplace violence on page 384, and it talks about preventing violence. And violence is just not a physical altercation either. It's talking about a lot of mental and psychological stuff too. And I think a lot of that has to come to an end, starting at the top to bottom. Like, it's a complete atmosphere paradigm shift that needs to be changed right away, and say, hey, we're not going to approve of this behavior. This is what's going to happen to you right off the bat. And we got to make an example out of it right away to understand that a lot of people cannot keep going with that type of behavior that is counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. That's the whole premise of the whole idea of the military, in my eyes, is that we are incorporating other people from different sides of the spectrum, different sides of life, and different experiences, all in the grand goal of getting as one collective unit to accomplish things downrange for the United States. So when it talks about social media in here and a lot of the the bullying that happens across the platform, especially on the like a, and it translate over and it causes people so much distress that it's affecting their mental health, right? And there's one of the reasons why I got away from Facebook is because it was affecting my mental health. And it just got to a point that it's like, I can't deal with this. I need to get myself out of that atmosphere, because there was friends that I spent a lot of times with where we're just having, it wasn't even a discussion anymore. It was like arguments, legit arguments. And I'm like, I can't believe I was actually friends with these people. Like, it's almost as if their true colors are coming through, especially within the last year. And then it was the same thing with family, and it sucked. So I had to get myself out of that situation. And it just talks about that, and it just keeps sorry, I'm trying to scrub through here real quick as I'm doing this to make sure that I got everything that I needed out of this. But to stop all of that stuff, it needs to be established right off from the top of the bottom, and saying that nobody is going to do or accept that type of behavior. And then the book talks about employee abusive organizations, and if you just keep perpetuating that, now other people are going to not want to come to work, not feel like they're welcome to work, so on and so forth. So making sure that we stop that right away is the biggest thing to avoid people lashing out against the organization, lashing out against others, and where you have a more cohesive organization where everybody, regardless of whatever their differences are, and they can come together, find that common ground, and move forward. To stop doing that. And then I think I did get 3 out of that. And I talked a little bit about workspace and alienation. And that was my other point, is when people feel, because of the organization atmosphere, they feel like they're not part of that. They're going to backtrack or try to stay away within it. And it can cause a lot of distress, not only within, but also the organization. But anyways, so yeah, that's my article. Kind of a little bit of a rant about my own thoughts and ideas about social media and what it has actually transpired to be. I can go a whole lot deeper on that rabbit hole about social media, or even just technology as a whole, having, all the information and ways to find an answer to something, and people still choose the easy way out and just don't take the extra 5 minutes to actually educate themselves on topics, and then just keep perpetuating a bad atmosphere and just not being productive as a whole to society. And they just keep going into these social media platforms and being keyboard warriors and not really thinking about their ripple effects after the fact, after what they've said. And then if you do address it face to face, they just decide not to acknowledge it, or they deny it, all of it. And it's like, no, I would never say that, but you did. Like, I can literally reference it on my phone. But there's just kind of the unfortunate side of where we're at as a society, and it just humanity as a whole. So yeah, sorry. I got into a little tangent there myself about it all. Anyways, so that's it. I'm done. You guys have a good night.